Hello everyone, this is Brandon with Upshift Online, and today we wanted to introduce our Upshift Garage series, which is something we've dipped our toe into just a little bit, but we haven't really gotten into it, so hopefully we're going to start doing that more and more. And one of the first products we want to talk about is the Cyclops 10.0 LED Headlight Kit. So this kit works for 2016 to current KTM and Husqvarna dirt bikes, the FEs, the EXCs, etc. It'd also work on the current more modern TPIs, which are fuel injected. If you don't have a fuel injected bike, you want to talk to the guys at Cyclops about getting a rectifier, which will convert the AC to DC. That's a big deal because this will die a very miserable, painful death without it. So make sure if you have questions, get in touch with those guys first off and make sure you're getting the right stuff. For now, we're going to install our 10.0 LED headlight kit with the Ultra option, which I'll talk more about in a little bit, on our FE501. So what is the 10.0, you ask? Well, it's a 38 watt LED bulb replacement that would just basically goes right into the OEM mounting. It's based on 4 genuine Cree emitters, which is actually kind of a big deal because there's a lot of lights coming out of China that they're not Cree. They're claiming to be Cree, but they're knockoffs. So this is a very high quality, a very high output light that Cyclops is putting together. So this is a plug and play solution. It's designed and made to fit right into your OEM headlight housing. Cyclops has actually gone to quite a bit of effort to make the mounting just right and make it seal up properly. This is a 38 watt draw, which is not a lot. You know, it's pretty typical for the LED world, which is still somewhat new for a lot of riders. They decided to spec this at a 5600 Kelvin, which is in the lighting world, that's warmth, and it's very much a middle of the road. And a much warmer light is actually really great off-road because it gives you a lot of color contrast and makes the trail a lot more visible, but it also makes you less visible on the road to other drivers, other motorists. So this heads more in the direction of being a little bit more white and bright so that people can see you as well. So that conspicuousy is a big deal for street legal dual sports, which is what a lot of us are going to now. One of the things Cyclops wanted to address with this is DOT compliance. Low beam is a big deal on a street legal vehicle. High beam is kind of whatever. It can be sky's the limit, but low beam is actually very much regulated. So with a street legal dirt bike like the FE, being a good motorist and being courteous to other drivers and riders, having that low beam attainable is pretty important. So that's what they've done with this, is you have a DOT legal low beam, but then you have a ton of light in the high beam, which you're able to utilize on the stock switching, and it just gives you much more performance off-road, so you're not outrunning your light. The 10.0 utilizes 4 Cree emitters, 2 on each side. The 2 forward ones are the low beam. The 2 rear ones are the high beam. In our case, we ordered the Ultra, which engages all 4 of the emitters at once. The low beams being engaged also really help fill in front of the bike and make sure that you have a lot more light around you versus just throwing out way in front of you, which is just helps keep you from getting tired and headaches. So removing the headlight housing is actually very, very easy. Just simply disengage these 2 rubber straps on either side. You want to pull the headlight housing from the very top forward and away. Next, we want to disconnect the blinkers, which is pretty simple. I just went ahead and marked both sides of this connection with some Sharpie so that I know which one's right and which one's left. Simply push in the tab, and disconnect. Same on the left. Disconnect the large guy there. Disconnect the ignition. Next, we just need to remove the housing from the brake cable, which is pretty straightforward. On this one, we actually just simply spread the housing away. And on the KTMs, it's a little bit easier. It's actually just 2 tabs and you just work it out. Now that we have the headlight bezel off of the bike and on the bench, we're simply using a helmet ring, which makes life a little bit easier. You can use a pile of rags too, just to protect the lens. Removing the stock bulb and park light is really easy. Simply push it down and rotate it out. Done, and then the parking light just pops out and the bulb, and we're done. A quick note on this particular kit from Cyclops, one of the things that they recommend you do is just simply cut the parking light off and plug the hole again. We're not going to do that because this is actually KTM's bike, so we're just going to go to the hardware store and get a rubber plug and fill this guy in. Make it simple and easy. If you want to keep your stock light complete for selling it down the road, that's what we'd recommend too. Next, we're going to remove the 2 screws at the top of the reflector. They're T20 Torx. And then from there, we're going to install some spacers just to help get things aligned properly. Now that the bolts are out, we're going to just install these 2 spacers that come with the kit in place, and then we'll put the screws back in. Nice and simple. So the 10.0 comes assembled as you see it right here. We need to take it apart a little bit just so making it a lot easier to install. Holding the base of the unit in one hand, utilizing your other hand, you just want to rotate the whole unit until there's little ears that match a groove. Slides right out. Once you have the unit taken apart, in the box there is an O-ring, and you want to install the O-ring into the cap, into the channel that they've produced. Simply slide it in, work it all the way around. I use the little screwdriver just to make sure it's seated, and you're good to go there. Next, you want to install the metal base into the reflector bezel. This is really pretty straightforward. Well, a couple things to keep an eye on. The metal side of the metal bezel is what is actually going into the housing part of it, and then on the back side of it is a rubber and foam seal. On the top end of this, you want to make sure that the bigger tab is pointing straight up, this being the top of the headlight bezel, and then it'll sit nice and flat right on top of the tabs. From there, we want to install the ring, which will keep everything together. The orientation on this is important. So again, this being the top of the headlight bezel, you want to get that Cyclops just off to the side. Simply grab it with both hands, push straight down, and rotate clockwise. Once it locks in, it's good to go. Next is just simply installing the bulb into all the base pieces that we've already installed onto the bezel. On the bulb, you'll actually see these little tabs. There's 2 different sizes, so you can't install them in the wrong direction. Simply slide it in and twist counterclockwise so it'll lock, and it will not come out anymore. It's good to go. Now that the bulb is installed into the bezel and everything's secure, double checked, do all those things that you got to do. The last thing that goes on to this is the H4 adapter, which comes in the box. Simply plug it in, and then that gives you the ability to plug right into the OEM wiring harness. Reinstalling the headlights is really quite simple. Just simply reverse the steps we use to take it off. First things first, the brake line. Plug in the blinkers, just kind of keeping an eye on which one's the right and left. Again, we used a quick Sharpie mark so I knew which one was which. Next is the ignition. Super straightforward, it's right there. If you orient it right, done. And then last but not least, plugging in the headlight bulb. Locked. Now it's a little bit tricky. You want to just make sure you get this wiring tucked away nice and neat. Sometimes we'll zip tie them, sometimes they sit. There's enough wiring in there to kind of cradle everything nicely, and then simply rotate everything back into place. A quick thing to keep an eye on is there's two little knobs at the bottom of the plastic here. They need to mate up with the front fender, and that will actually help lock everything into place. Last but not least, reattach your rubber straps. now that we've got the headlight bezel installed again and everything's looking good, we want to give it a quick test and make sure that everything's working properly before we head on the road or the trail. So we'll just turn it on in a well-ventilated area, of course. We'll go through all the different functionality and make sure we're good to go. So that's it. Everything's working good. We're really happy with the Cyclops product. We've used these quite a bit. If you do have questions, make sure you reach out to those guys. They do have a ton of options. They don't just make this for the Huskies and the KTMs. They make them for a ton of bikes. They have a number of custom options too. So reach out to those guys. This unit is $100 plus another $10 for the Ultra. It's incredible value. Like, there's really nothing out there like this bulb, period, much less at that price point. So this is easy money to spend if you're not interested in buying a $500 or $600 race light, which is a different animal altogether. This is a great option, tremendous value, and it does put down a ton more light while keeping you legal for street use and all those things. So again, this is Brandon with Upshift Online. Welcome back to Upshift Garage. We definitely want to be doing more of this, so give us a thumbs up and follow our channel. That definitely helps us out a ton. And beyond that, we have tons and tons of hats and shirts and graphics kits and all kinds of other things that help us keep doing what we do. So if you have questions about any of these items, let us know, and we'll talk to you next time.